Picture this, it's 3 in the morning. You're lying awake staring at the ceiling while your mind races through every financial disaster that could happen tomorrow. Your car might break down. Your laptop could suddenly stop working. You could lose your job, maybe your pet needs emergency surgery. Sound familiar? Now let me ask you something. What if there were a very specific amount of money that could eliminate most of these late-night anxiety spirals and completely change the way you move through life? Most people assume financial milestones are just random numbers invented by wealthy people to make everyone else feel behind. But here's what might surprise you. There's real psychology and real math behind why certain amounts of money create dramatic shifts in how we think, feel, and make decisions. And the first true turning point isn't $1 million. It's not even $100,000. It's $10,000. My name is Nick, and I spend an unreasonable amount of time thinking about money, human psychology, and why some people seem to move through financial challenges calmly, while others are constantly stressed about their bank balance. If you've ever wondered what it actually feels like to have different amounts of money saved, and more importantly, how each milestone changes the way you make decisions, make sure to subscribe. And if this video helps put things into perspective, give it a thumbs up. Now, before we talk about why $10,000 is so powerful, let's look at what life feels like without it. You know that moment at the grocery store when you're standing in the cereal aisle, mentally calculating whether you can afford the name brand box, or if you need to grab the generic one that tastes like cardboard. Or when your friends suggest going out to dinner, and you come up with some vague excuse. Because admitting that a $25 meal would destroy your weekly budget feels uncomfortable. This is everyday life for millions of people living paycheck to paycheck. Every financial decision becomes a calculation. Every unexpected expense feels like a potential catastrophe. You're constantly playing defense with your money instead of making proactive choices about your future. And this constant financial pressure doesn't just affect your wallet, it affects how you think. But here's where things get interesting. There's a very specific psychological shift that happens when you save your first $10,000, and it has nothing to do with buying expensive things. In fact, most people who reach this milestone don't dramatically change their spending habits at all. The transformation is much quieter and much more powerful. The first thing that changes is your relationship with risk. When you have no savings, every decision feels dangerous. Changing jobs, moving to a new city, even planning a vacation. Everything feels risky because one wrong move could leave you financially devastated. But when you have $10,000 sitting in your account, those same decisions suddenly feel manageable. You're not quitting your job tomorrow to become a professional juggler, but you might finally ask for the promotion you've been putting off. You might invest in a course or certification that increases your earning potential. The safety net doesn't make you reckless. It gives you permission to think beyond surviving until the next paycheck. There's also something fascinating happening inside your brain. Neuroscientists have found that financial security lowers cortisol levels, the body's primary stress hormone. That means reaching $10,000 doesn't just change your finances. It literally changes how your body reacts to everyday challenges. Think about a minor car problem. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that check engine light feels like a countdown to disaster. Your mind immediately jumps to credit cards, borrowing money, or panic. But when you have $10,000 saved, that same warning light becomes an inconvenience. You're annoyed, but you're not terrified. That shift from panic to mild frustration ripples through your entire life. You sleep better, you focus better, you're more patient with people, you make better decisions. Financial stress affects almost every aspect of human behavior. And removing it frees up mental energy you can finally use to improve your situation. Here's something most people don't realize about the $10,000 milestone. The biggest benefit doesn't come from spending the money. It comes from knowing the money is there. This is what financial experts call the emergency fund effect, and it's one of the most underrated ideas in personal finance. An emergency fund isn't really about emergencies. It's about peace of mind. Most people who save $10,000 never actually use it for emergencies. They use it for opportunities, education, career moves, relocation, or simply the mental bandwidth to focus on increasing income, because they're no longer worried about survival. There's also a confidence shift that's hard to measure but impossible to ignore. When you have money in the bank, you carry yourself differently. You negotiate better. You walk away from bad deals. You stop accepting things out of desperation. And that confidence quietly leads to better job offers, stronger relationships, and better outcomes overall. Now you might be thinking that $10,000 sounds impossible, especially if saving even $100 a month feels difficult. But here's the interesting part. The hardest part isn't saving the money itself. It's becoming the type of person who saves money. Most people treat saving like a temporary diet. They cut expenses aggressively, save hard for a few months, burn out, and revert to old habits. People who reach $10,000 think differently. They see saving as an identity shift, and that shift affects every decision they make. When you see yourself as someone who saves money, you start noticing expenses you never questioned before. You become more creative about earning extra income. You start thinking long-term instead of chasing instant gratification, and the process gets easier over time. Saving your first $1,000 is painful. Your second $1,000 is easier. By the time you're working toward $5,000 or $6,000, saving starts to feel almost automatic. There's also a simple mathematical reason $10,000 is so powerful. It covers the vast majority of financial emergencies: car repairs, medical bills, short-term job loss, family emergencies. Once you reach this milestone, you're protected from the exact events that keep people trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. But perhaps the biggest change is how you start seeing money itself. Before savings, money feels scarce. Every dollar spent feels gone forever. With $10,000 as a foundation, money becomes a tool, something that creates options. That's when people start exploring investing, side hustles, and passive income, not because they're experts, but because they finally have mental space. Here's something that might surprise you. Someone with $10,000 saved is often closer to financial independence than someone earning twice as much with no savings. Why? Because the most important wealth-building skill isn't earning money, it's keeping it. You probably know people with six-figure salaries who are somehow always broke. Income isn't the difference. Mindset is. Saving $10,000 teaches patience, discipline, and delayed gratification, the most valuable financial skills anyone can develop. And no, $10,000 won't make you rich. You're not quitting your job or buying luxury toys, but it gives you breathing room, and breathing room is the foundation of every smart financial decision. If your bank balance looks discouraging right now, don't panic. Start small. Stay consistent. Because the person you become while saving your first $10,000 is far more valuable than the money itself.